Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and this is going to be actually a really fun battle. It's going to be essentially an army filled with goblins, so super numerous forces against my army of the greenskins that's more focused. So you can see his build here with tons of archers, goblin archers down through the center. The vast majority of his troops are just going to be regular spear-armed goblins, but they are huge in number. And then he's backing that up with a couple of these big arachnarok spiders that have been taken from the forest. Obviously also going to be ridden by goblins as well. He has one of the basic kinds, and then over on the other side, I believe, he has the arachnarok queen. Where is she at? So she's pushing her way down through the jungles, or I should say just the forest, and she's going to hold firm here. It's pretty scary stuff. This army is just massive in terms of troop counts. Let's put this on slow motion just so we can see the number of troops. Oh my god, I have 5,000 men. My opponent has 1,500, so outnumbered 3-1. That's what you get when you bring a lot of goblins. So his main force is pushing forward here. I was a little bit intimidated by how large it was. I knew I could punch through, but it was just a matter of choosing the right engagement. He also has a pretty sneaky flanking force here. Goblin wolf riders with some various other night goblins, the warlord's boy, so unbreakable units. And yeah, just a big horde of little caps. From a distance, you might kind of look into the woods and think that this was a group of mushrooms here. But no, these are actually a bunch of goblins with their cute little caps. So yeah, he's prepared for himself a little bit of an ambush there. If we go into my build, what have I brought? Well, on the mountaintop I have Savage Orc Big Guns. I didn't quite know what my opponent would bring, so I decided I would bring some Savage Orcs. Some of them are big guns, and then intersperse within that a couple of these squig herds. These guys are pretty awesome with the damage resistance and the squig herd being anti-infantry and stuff like that, so it makes for a nice 1-2 punch for charging the main line. So that was kind of my main line here. I do have some of my own archers. Two of them are up front, just regular goblin archers, and then I have another one that I believe I pulled off to the flank, or actually he's here in the back. I have one black orc in the center, and then two more are going to be on my left, and those two are actually going to be in close support of my giants. So I have two of these big tankerous monsters moving forward. Not even sure if tankerous is a word. I know cantankerous is. Tankerous, I probably made that up. But anyways, I brought these guys, and I positioned them on the flank to look for an engagement. I figured them backed up with the Black Orc would be a big, nice hitting force, but obviously they can get in trouble, which is why I had an ambush force nearby. So this is going to be Nasty Skulkers, the Moon Howlers, and then also, I don't know, what's the other force? I believe it's... Oh, no, okay, sorry, the Peak Loonies. So some unbreakable units here, plus Nasty Skulkers and the Moon Howlers here, which are pretty cool because one of their abilities that they have is to cause fear, and they can regen, I believe, over time. So I wanted them here. It's a good pursuit force, especially with causing fear against enemy skirmishers. If you can get in and amongst them, you can break them pretty readily. So my opponent's going to pop a bit of his ambush here, keeping most of his troops hidden in the back, but he's going to pop out with two Goblin Wolf Archers. And they're going to come in pursuit of my giants. I'm going to wait for them to chase after my guys. My own giants are going to be slowly walking up to the top of the hill in a seeming retreat, trying to pull these guys into my own ambush. That's what's happening here. And up through the front, I do have actually a couple goblin big bosses. Goblin, yeah, no, they're big bosses. For some reason, I don't think of them as big because they're little goblins. But yeah, they're spiders, so two of them. And I actually have Warzog, who's going to be back at my main line. He has a couple spells on him that are going to help me buff my main line and debuff the enemy. Anyways, the opponent's getting really close to my Black Orcs and others. I wheel about and come in pursuit. And the wolves are going to run away. But I have my own wolves in close pursuit here. And I believe I popped that ambush a little bit prematurely. The enemy is able to whiz on out of there. Didn't expect him to be so quick. But with that pursuit, my opponent is now going to pop his secondary ambush with a bunch of guys. And so here comes this mushroom forest coming out after me. I'm not too worried about being sandwiched by this force. Yes, it looks very large, but again, it's all types of stuff that I can just squish with my heavy units on this flank. This is where I've pulled out the rest of my forces, and I'm going to spot these troops with the Moon Howlers, and here with the regen on the HP is really handy because they're taking preliminary shots, but it won't matter as long as I don't get completely obliterated. I should be able to take the engagement and just heal right up afterwards. So I'm going to chase after the opponents. My guy's doing a really good job, super speedy, wolf versus wolf to get a couple nice kills. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to chase them back to the main army. And now I spotted this big, juicy blob. The enemy is going to already run in fear and a panic. The goblins here, very scared of the black orcs and giants coming after them. So they're running away, a huge column. I do have one of my goblin big bosses coming after the enemy, just slicing through the opposition. But all they're doing is just trying to delay me. So I'm pulling everything I can around this front. I did pull my moon howlers around the flank. They're getting caught up a little bit with the goblins. But luckily, with my speed, I'm able to whiz on out of there. And now I'm going to catch this enemy column on the march and charge right into them. My guys obviously are very light, so they're not very good at running over these light troops, and I'm not actually going to trade very well. But all I wanted to do was just slow these guys down. So you can see me taking a lot of damage there, not many kills, but I'm just knocking this group around, trying to delay the ant hill. One of my black orcs has pushed up to the top, and it looks like the enemy is wheeling. The entire anthill has been disturbed here. Everything is pulling back because I am threatening to take over this flank with a lot of my elite forces. The enemy not really knowing what to do at this point. They have to pull back with their archers. And meanwhile, my forces on top of the hill are going to start to pull down in support. But it looks like the engagement is going to kind of take place on this front, which is really good because what that forces the enemy to do is funnel into my guys, and that is exactly the type of engagement that I want my elite forces to face, is just, you know, throw all your goblins into the blob and allow me to get a really good area of effect. This goblin force is caught between a rock and a hard place, black orcs and a giant on one flank, so this is a giddy moment for these guys. Not very glorious. But I guess this is what happens unseen from the eyes of man. All this stuff is going on routinely in the Badlands. Just smackdown of greenskins versus goblins. The pecking order being established. So yeah, I'm glad we get to see a little bit of this. I've caught this force here in the woods. My opponent decides to make a little bit of a stand. Night Goblin's going to be holding, and his other forces are going to turn back around. Night Goblins, here, where is it? The Unbreakable Force. The Warlord's boys. So they're going to turn about and decide that this is the little patch of force they want to fight in. I have my own 8-peak loonies, and they are actually going to go ahead and I believe in this little blob here, go ahead and pop some of their abilities. I am going to unleash, I believe, some of my, what's it called? The vortex spells here. Basically, I'm going to unload with some of my fanatics onto this enemy blob. It's going to do a fair amount of damage. Giants and SC Skulkers are going to be coming up closely behind, and we are shattering the enemy blob. Meanwhile, the rest of my forces in the back, more black orcs moving up, but I've had to pull away with my howlers. They're slowly going to start to regen some of their health here. Nope. Yeah, actually, I may have reached the limit of my regen. But anyways, they're occupying this force here. And yeah, meanwhile, the rest of my troops are going to be pulling up, but it's rather slow. Now let's watch a bit of this. So in the forest, very representative of what's going on, and every swing here is going to take out swaths of the enemy. This is so funny. And I would love to be this giant in this engagement. This is going to be one of the most fun things you've ever done. I mean, those goblins are the size of your toe, pose no threat for you, and you can just rake up the kills. And actually, look, a spider is going to be engaging in the distance, so all kinds of mischief is going to be happening here. My black orcs are going to forego this engagement. My giant is going to be able to take these guys out, and in the distance the black orcs are going to decide to engage against this big spider who has currently knocked down my giant, but he's just going to pick himself up and turn around. Over here I get some ridiculous hits on against these goblins, getting some of my fanatics to unload on them, and that is going to obliterate two forces where my goblin big boss also, this hero unit, really nothing can stop him. And so he feels like really a big boss here, a goblin acting almost like a god amongst, well, worms essentially against these other goblins. Nothing can really take him out. I also am going to be able to move in here with my caster and get all sorts of buffs off on my guys, debuffing against the enemy Itchy Nuisance on various forces, and then trying to get Itchy Nuisance on the arachnarok spider while buffing my guys up is going to allow me to completely destroy this arachnarok. While my guys are in the mix. From this flank, my guys are already starting to engage. I've pulled up my own archers, and they're going to start to hit the flank of the enemy. Warzug is in here, also going to be swatting away at these toddlers. And it is just mayhem. So, enemy is crumbling on this front. I got a lot of nice battle abilities off against them, but the archers are going to start to mass. Luckily, they don't quite have the best arc of fire. A lot of the shots going to be blunted by the woods here. By the time they get to my black orcs, well, the armor is going to save a lot of my dudes. But we're wading through seas and tides of the enemy. So it's slowly going to start to take its toll. This black orc is at half health. The spider does come back, trying to hold my guys, and the rest of the force is going to come back and collapse. This is when I really tell my guys to move up on the double. We can watch as the dinner bell has been sounded. Squig's going to be, skipping merrily down the hill, knowing that they can come and devour a whole army of goblins. My savage orcs also going to be coming in the back, and they smell blood. Archer's going to be doing a really good job of covering fire to my lord. Warzog doing tons of damage, and now we've punched through this first line of the enemy. That spider is going to try and hold somewhat, but it's going to be focused down here pretty soon. Black Orc's going to continue to move forward, and it's these giant bastions, these tanks, these giants that are allowing me to plow through. Second line is going to form up, but I'm going to get to the soft core of these forces, and everything's going to be seen off. It looks like the enemy is going to try, and I believe get a spell off against me. Curse of the Bad Moon going to be getting off here, so it's going to do a bit of damage, but my guys should be okay. I'm vacating the forest anyways. So we can see this huge blob of goblins trying to form a second wall, but it's rapidly crumbling, and then here comes the preparation for an assault. I'm pulling around with some of the Death Creepers. These guys are cool also. They have poison attacks, and so the reason I'm pulling them around the flank is because that will allow you to kind of, when you get poison off, debuff the abilities of the defenders here. Melee attack, and a bunch of the other stats are going to drop, and so I'm going to wait till I'm close enough to where the engagement is just about to get underway, and then I'm going to start to fire. So I'm going to start with this unit and then kind of go down the line and make sure that every single goblin is poisoned, and that only lasts 10 seconds, but with repeated shots I can make sure this crumbles that much quicker. In the back here, my giant has continued to rake in the kills, 72 of them, and he's going to town. He's been reinforced by the Night Goblin Shaman, who's also going to be getting his just kills here. The enemy forces, the Goblin Wolf Riders, have pulled up and tried to land in the back of my forces. Luckily, I'm in the woods. It's going to blunt a lot of their shots. And so the enemy is going to start to come back somewhat and surround my forces. I am losing a couple of my units, but mostly it's just the nasty Skulker, so I'm not too worried. And now here comes the engagement along the main lines here. You can press play. And yeah, heroes in the mix, but the enemy is going to start to notice and focus fire on my lords. I've got Foe Seeker, here we go, lots of abilities being popped on my front lines, but the enemy does have their own Goblin Great Shaman here, just urging on this Green Tide versus mine Green Tide. I've decided to halt my squigs a little bit. They were going to be a little bit too fast on the assault, and so I pulled them back, and now we're going to get a nice timing where they're going to hit just at the same time. I've been shooting at these goblins a bit on this flank. My forces in the rear are going to start to target along the line, making sure we get poison off, and now I guess we can watch my forces as they crest the hill. These savage orcs going to tear into the opponents. Let's watch this. As the Green Tide just lands, oh my god, all up through here. Look at the squigs, the high tide tossing all these goblins. Look at them in the back just being thrown about. Absolutely brutal. My guys are having a field day here, and yet the poison shot's also going to be landing in and amongst these guys. They're going to be shaken and collapsing pretty soon. On this front, I've been blunted a bit by the spiders, but that's okay. I have archers in the rear who can start to deal with that arachnarok queen. I did bring my goblin big boss around the back to try and get at these archers, but again, another unit of spider hatchlings is going to try and prevent me. So here comes a bigger spider tangoing with these smaller spiders. And in the back here, my swigs are going to tear through this flank, although the enemy is already collapsing. But here comes the complete rout of the goblin line. God, this is freaking glorious. My choppas here are doing tremendous amounts of work. And yeah, the complete collapse of this entire line. But the fight is not over yet. My enemy still has a lot of units that are going to be coming back to the battlefield, and especially his arachnarok queen. The masses of bows in the back are going to be doing a lot of damage to my forces. I do get in with my Death Creepers. I'm stopping from firing just to be able to tie these forces down, so my spiders are going to sink their fangs into these goblins to silence them somewhat. But like I said, the fire was doing a lot of damage. They were able to focus fire on my goblin big boss, take him down a notch and actually really focus down Wozog here, who's routing. You can see all the shots coming in. He's going to try and hide behind his giant friend, but I believe they're going to see him off the battlefield. And now my guys wrapping around that flank are going to try and hit the back of this force and really rallying my guys. This is absolute chaos. The Arachnarok Queen is going to turn about and try and deal with me. My Savage Orcs really don't have a way, and Squigs don't really have a way to deal with this Arachnarok Queen, so I'm forced to deal with them with Goblin Archers and other forces, but mostly I'm just going to bide my time. Black Orcs also going to get in the mix, and yeah, it's just a race for me to tie down all these archers and chase everything down. My guys have disengaged, and they're just going to be firing into the mass. I'm going to turn them about and try and fire into this blob, get that poison. And now my archers and other forces are going to try and get this Arachnarok Queen off the field, but she's going to go after weaker prey, while her little hatchlings are going to deal with my black orcs. Over here, more archers and these Goblin Wolf Riders are going to turn about and fire at Wozog. He should go down. My other Goblin Big Boss pretty low. But luckily in the forest here, my giant has been shielded mostly from the fire of these Goblin Archers, not doing much damage themselves, so thank God he's alive. He was able to shatter and hold back the rear lines. Plus, of course, my Shaman here, perhaps it would have been better used in my main line buffing up stuff, but I need these heroes kind of to be dealing with these blobs, and they've been doing so rather effectively, I would say. Squigs are starting to rout, so I'm starting to lose some of my forces, but again, the main meat of my troops, the Savage Orcs, are doing their work. And now, oh god, here comes the giant right into the back. This is going to be brutal. He revs it up. Boom! Bowls a strike and just kills just as many wading through. Oh my god, and blasts through the rest. Absolutely shattering this force. So yeah, I'm going blob by blob, just killing tons of units. Let's see how many. 242 kills? That is absurd. Yeah, and I really just need to hit these clusters, get them to rout, and then my units can more effectively deal with them. But I get these guys to rout at 50% health, and then you'll see they'll start to reform and gain back their confidence. So this is a little bad for me, because if he can reform his army and get back to me, my numbers are getting rapidly depleted. Squigs, for instance, here only just coming back. My main line in the center is kind of susceptible. I have a couple Black Orcs that are still up and running. The main threat here is going to be the enemy hero. I really want to get rid of him. Wozog is still alive, but he's teetering on the edge. He's got 201 HP. I cast an ability on these Goblin Wolf Riders. I'm going to try and get in here to see them off before they shoot at me. This is going to be really close. Let's see how much health I have here. They try and turn about. They're going to chip a bit at me. I'm pulling in my Death Creepers to get some shots off, and I'm able to see the enemy off, which is nice, but not before Wozog is broken here. But luckily, he's not necessarily going to be killed, so I'm able to save him. But this Arachnarok Queen is very high health. She's starting to regen out of the battle, so this is very troublesome for me. And these Arachnarok Spiders are going to rejoin and try and form an opposing death monster force in opposition to my Giants, who meanwhile are kind of running all over the place. Their next priority target is going to be against the enemy general, knocking him on his ass. And I know that, you know, with the enemy army reforming, if I could take out the enemy lord, then that'll prevent them from reforming. And it looks like it's going to be very effective. He's going to be taking, oh my god, that one hit dropped half his health. So it looks like a couple more hits and he should be going down. That was really great stuff. This is exactly what I needed to finish the enemy off, and I'm surprised he's still standing. He's been knocked about a lot, but it looks like my repeated strikes are having a hard time hitting him. And he's going to have some Night Goblins try and reform and save his ass. Yeah, none of my strikes are hitting him. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. My second Giant is going to be waylaid, and I have to be careful. I can't get them too far from the battlefield because all of a sudden my remaining forces, for instance my Black Orcs here, might get surrounded. So that's why it's nice that I have these Death Creepers here shooting poison shots into the back of the enemy, and also a couple of my heroes here just to do some hammer and anvil on the enemy blobs, keep my own elite forces alive, prevent them from being surrounded, and really shatter these blobs, and then allow me after the fact when they've routed to chase after them with you know, squigs and clean them up. I've been able to do that somewhat, and this hero Goblin Big Boss going to be tanking it out, killing two more of these units. Wozog has been seen off the battlefield. Luckily this Arachnarok Spider has been mismicroed and is gone. But the Arachnarok Queen in the center has come back, and she's going to be dealing with my Goblin Big Boss. I do have some Savage Big Orcs, and they're just going to be playing a game of delay. Don't expect them to do much here, but pulling my forces out in retreat would only cause them to die that much more quickly. Speaking of dying, I did lose a big boss here. So unfortunately, the tides are starting to turn somewhat against me. You can see the balance bar really against my guys. I've dropped from 1500 to 342. My opponent dropped from 5k to 1k. So I'm still outnumbered exactly 3 to 1 as it was in the very beginning. But now our numbers are very depleted. So it's really going to be a case of how well can I use my big tanky units, and how well can I safeguard my own elite units like the Black Orcs. I really have not much left. Luckily, these squigs did come back, and they're going to be doing Gork and Mork's work by dealing with these Goblin Archers and other light units that are now separated, and making sure that they're completely routed. 86 kills, they'll be getting a lot more to their name. The Giants are going to be pulled back. You can see I've given them movement orders to come back into the forest. I figure this is a nice place for them to come back, rest, and recuperate. Meanwhile, I've got my spiders here with 151 kills, and they spot all these weak troops, and I'm like, I'm going to go and eat all of you guys alive. Gonna have full bellies tonight, tossing goblins around, and yeah, all my mobile forces here basically going uncontested. Yes, the enemy has some giant mobile troops, but they're so big and lumbering, I don't expect them to be able to catch me. So yeah, look at this force. A lot of troops for me to go after. I do have an archer force that's coming back, and so he's going to try and deal with this arachnarok queen. Luckily, like I said, I did bring both my giants back. They're going to be here just in time, and I'm going to circle around with all my remaining forces, and we're going to have a showdown of ultimate destiny against the arachnarok queen. Luckily, I also have my night goblin shaman here who has still some winds of magic left, and what I can do is I can go ahead and pop an ability on my black orcs. You'll be seeing that shortly, just as they're about to engage, to give them some extra armor piercing. And yet, you can see me start to cast this ability here, and this is going to help me grind through the tough hide of the arachnarok queen. So there you go, sneaky stabbing, plus 34 melee, plus 18% armor piercing, and immediately that arachnarok spider is going to start to eat the dust. She starts to scream out for help, but both my giants going to be slamming into her, and even her little hatchlings, turning this arachnarok queen into spider goop. She tries to pull out of there and does a really good job of knocking over my black orcs. So that is pretty good, but I'm going to try and focus fire on her with my Death Creepers and also my Goblin Archers, and it looks like she's scrambling around, not quite sure what to do. A couple of shots leading her are going to make their mark and hit her. Meanwhile, the rest of my guys here are going to circle back around. Almost lost my Night Goblin. He's really low health, but I'm going to be able to circle around. My spiders here, yes, I've gotten a lot of kills, but this wounded arachnarok queen is not something to be trifled with, even with low health, so I'm going to keep my distance here and allow some of my bigger forces to deal with it, as well as my archers. In the distance, you can see my squigs also dealing with the opponent. Looks like the spider is going to go ahead and face... Oh my god, he actually killed one of my giants. Holy crap, that charge was super... Oh no, okay, whew. I thought he was dead. No, he just got... Oh, they're both getting knocked down, so that spider really... doing a number on my giants here. Oh my god, she's just knocking both of them down. This is absurd. Not going down without a fight. But that was pretty brutal. It just needs a couple more shots to deal with her. Oh, but she does really a good job of knocking my guys down. And there we go. Okay, she's routed. And with that, I mean, the enemy lord had gone. This was the last big monster, and she routs, and that is going to be ultimately a victory for me. The other arachnarok spider was coming just back to the battlefield. Maybe it could have come and joined forces. I think if my opponent had run around with both of those arachnarok spiders together and maybe focused on, you know, just coming after my goblin shaman, I think if he'd taken out my leadership, he maybe could have gotten a mass rout on the rest of my forces. But these giants were definitely, you know, the saving grace of my army. We can end the replay and take a look at some of the final stats and kills on them. Yeah, you can see 234, 277, absolutely ridiculous. 131 on the squigs, 150 here, 93. I mean, that's what happens when you have 5k troops deployed against 1500. And sorry, I don't know why I was saying 3 to 1 before. I have, oh my god, I was way more outnumbered than that. Yeah. So that was pretty intense. What else is a high kill? 195 on the Fen Creepers. Even these archers doing real well. Holy crap, the 8 Peak Loonies with 188. Black Orcs, 317, 221, 136. Savage Orcs here? Are you serious? 330, 398, almost 400 kills on a Savage Orc. Good God, everyone had a field day. On the opposing side, not much kills to go around. Most of them are going to be with the Night Goblins. I believe those are the ones who killed my sneaky Skulkers. A lot of kills on, I guess, these Goblin Wolf Riders. They were mostly taking out my archers, but that's it. Everyone else was thrown into the meat grinder. So yeah, Crooked Moon is going to have to go back to the drawing board. My greenskins here bathing in the glory, and they're going to do super well. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.